Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Hello, friends. I am so excited to share this conversation with you today. Susan Hayes is a friend that I met through my friend Jeff. She and her husband Roddy actually helped Jeff locate his house in France. And she is such a phenomenal human. I'm going to read what she wrote for her bio because it just made me realize she's even more amazing than I thought she was. Susan is married with 5 children. She's lived in France for over 2 decades. And she says, I suppose you could say I've had a very exciting life. I've lived in 3 different continents, been a horse race jockey over steeplechase fences, taken my private pilot's license, and hold a world record in big game fishing. Right? She's amazing. Everything is possible if you believe in yourself. 8 years ago, after a vast amount of hard work, we opened our guest cottage to our first paying visitors, and we've loved everyone we've met and every second of welcoming people here. It was a natural progression to extend our business, and today I run our French lifestyle. Along with greeting our guests and ensuring they have a comfortable and luxurious stay, we now help a great many people find their own dream properties here. Whether it is a vacation home or a permanent move, we help source the perfect house which suits their needs. I also buy and sell antique and vintage French lifestyle accessories, ensuring that people who cannot visit this country can at least have a little Frenchness in their homes. Life is always busy. It's a big adventure, and I never know quite what each day will bring, but it is never dull, and I wouldn't change a thing. Well, there is very little I can add to that, except for I could talk to this woman all day long. And I'm happy to say that I have spent many leisurely afternoons with a glass of something fabulous, sitting in her gorgeous courtyard, enjoying her beautiful French oasis for sure. And I'm really excited to have you get to know Susan a little bit more, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Susan Hayes, I am so excited to be having this conversation with you. How are you today?
I'm really good, and thank you so much for asking me. I'm so delighted to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. I have actually had the best time in conversations with people since I started this particular iteration of the podcast. And halfway through almost every conversation, I offer an invitation to interview them on the podcast because everyone has such fabulous stories and such an interesting take on this really important self-care practice of saying yes to ourselves. And I'm just fascinated. It's similar to if you decide, that you are getting a new car and you want a red car, and now all of a sudden you just only see red cars on the road. Your mind is looking for clues to support the thought that you believe. And my thought that I believe is that everybody wins when we say yes to ourselves. And I'm just finding myself in beautiful, easy conversations with beautiful, fabulous people that are doing this. And it's having such a positive impact on them and on those around them. And you are very much numbered among that gorgeous group.
Well, I'm extremely honored. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you. So, I mean, we could talk about anything because your whole life is just a big giant yes. You live in France, and that's enough. That's just a big yes. Oh, so tell us a little bit about how you arrived there and really what's on your heart right now. We were just talking before I hit record about a visit with your daughter and just watching how young people are living a life that seems different to what we did, but really, I think, inspired by what we did. So say more about that.
Actually, I think I'm never afraid of doing anything for myself. If I'm doing something for myself or for my family, I have no fear. If somebody says, right, we're going to up sticks and go and move in New Zealand, sure. Hey, let's just go and do it. And if we're going to come and live in France, we'll do it. We'll figure out the language. We'll figure everything out as it goes along. But life is an adventure, and let's take that adventure, grab it with both hands and do it. That for me, I have no problem with. And I think I've been like that all of my life. I mean, just to go back to the beginning, long before I met my husband, I was absolutely terrified of flying. And so I figured the only way I was ever going to conquer this fear was to get behind the controls myself. And so I did. And so I got my private pilot's license. And I can remember the first time I had to fly solo, the instructor took me to the end of the runway and said, right, I'm hopping out now. You just do a 15-minute circuit and come down. And I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I had sweaty palms. I was just terrified. But I did it, and I went on to fly all over France with a flying club and fly the acrobat plane and do barrel rolls and everything. And so those sort of fears I have no problem with. And then, I met my husband and he introduced me to the world of big game fishing, and I got my world record. And then we had 5 kids in 10 years. And,
Oh,
the children took over. And that's when we first came to France, when we had 4 children in 2004. And, those sort of things were just, to me, seem so easy. You put the children in school, you help them learn their French. It's like flying all over the world with the 5 children on my own. I have no problem. Somebody says, get on a plane and take 5 kids. I think everybody in the airport looks at us and thinks, oh, God, I hope I'm not next to that family. But they're so easy. They just travel like seasoned pros. Even when they were a baby, they were just, that type of thing I find so easy. And saying yes to doing anything like that, yep, I'm up for it. This summer I had to drive in Barcelona, and I don't really like driving in big cities, or strange big cities. But, if you've got to do it, you've got to do it. And that's just another fear you can conquer. It's just slightly getting away from your question, but
oh
the
no, I love it.
biggest challenge for me was actually we were in France since 2004, and then we went away for business reasons, my husband's work. And then when we came back, we were here for a long time. And then we went away for 4 years. And when we came back in 2014, I thought, right, I'm going to start a blog. The children were the youngest were in primary school, and they'd all been educated in France before. So they had a reasonable amount of French. And so I started my blog, but that was quite a natural progression. The hardest part for me was then when I decided to start the business, when the children got a little bit older, and, when they're teenagers, they don't need you quite so much. And we only have the 16 and 17-year-old at home full time now. And that for me is when the challenge came, was when I had to start putting myself out there. because I think fear of judgment, fear that everybody was going to say, oh, look at her, she's living this fabulous life in France. And it's not like that. I would never do anything to hurt anybody, or I just think I'm living a regular, ordinary life. I just happen to be in France. And yes, we're extremely lucky, but I'm not. But that fear of putting yourself out there was, for me, has been a big challenge that I've had to conquer, far harder than anything physical like flying or doing anything like that. And doing it in a foreign country as well has been that extra added challenge. And so I've had to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I'm not worried what other people are going to say, even though I know if I'm really, really honest to myself, yes, I still am worried what other people are going to say.
It's so fascinating. I can't imagine, based on the first part of your story, that you would care what anybody else says.
Because all of those things I'm doing for me.
Right. No, I think that's such an amazing perspective, because I just wonder if, sometimes you would think as a young mother that, some judgment around how you're raising your kids and how you're, taking them from country to country. And all to say, I think that we really do have a huge role in what we allow to limit us. Because you could have, in any of those areas, someone has said, what are you doing getting your private pilot license? You're a mother of young children. That's so irresponsible. Or,
but I did that before I had children. I did that before I met my husband.
That's true. But you were a daughter. So your mother could have said that was irresponsible. At any point in our life, we can lobby for our limitations all day long. And I just think it's fascinating that which topic becomes our kryptonite, where you're doing all of these things. And I really appreciate the difference between the things that you felt only affect you and your nuclear family, as opposed to what opens you up to a broader audience. And I also think it's interesting how you said, that people could say, oh, this woman, she's living a fabulous life in France. And the tone of your voice made it sound like that was a negative thing to say, where I say, oh my gosh, look at this woman. She's living a fabulous life in France. Like the inflection of the voice changes that message completely.
Absolutely. I think that's because I guess there's some form of guilt. You sort of think there are so many people out there having such a hard time that you almost feel you've got to qualify. Okay, I'm living what is perceived to be this great lifestyle. Yes, I have a nice house, I have a lovely garden, blah, 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 blah. But, life is still tough. There's still all the usual worries that everybody else has in life. And I think that's the thing I find hardest, is just, I don't want people to think, oh, it's his first. She doesn't have to worry about anything. Life's so simple. And I don't know why I worry about that I do. And that's, my only form of marketing for the business we've created is really my newsletter and social media. And therefore, everything is open to criticism by so many people. And I think that's what I find hardest. Give me anything to do. As I say, with the children, I will do anything. I have all the confidence in the world. Put the family with me. And if somebody said, right, you're going to go and skydive, and I'd say, okay, well, if the kids do it with me, sure, absolutely terrified, but I'll do it. But this is something that I'm doing purely for, well, I do it with Roddy, but it is very much my Instagram and my business. And it is open to so much criticism from so many people that I don't know, and things that I think that maybe this is it. I can't control them. I have no idea. I mean, you can see the comments that appear. You can see emails that people write to you. And I've been very lucky. I don't have negative comments or horrible emails. Thank goodness. I know like that I have been lucky, because I know it does happen. But all the same, I only see what I see. I'm sure there is all sorts of negativity out there as well. I'm probably best that I don't know about that in the first place anyway.
Okay, so wait a minute. So what you're saying is that you're open to criticism, and that's what makes you nervous, yet you've not received any criticism.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we had this talk. You are free, man. Enjoy the rest of your life.
You're absolutely right. I
Isn't
mean, you
that
are right.
amazing? That's amazing. We make it up.
But, I think talking to you, we've known each other for what, 4 or 5 years on off on your trips to France now. And I always love our talks because I think you make me look into myself in a way that perhaps I wouldn't. You make me examine things about myself and think more. And so I think you're right. I've never thought, why am I scared of criticism when I haven't actually been criticized? So I'm creating the problem in the first place.
Right. Oh my word. I'm so happy. I have chills. I'm so happy for you. You're
So
free.
you're helping me. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If nobody's criticizing, why am I worried? And I'm sure somebody is somewhere. But you know what? You've got to believe in yourself. As I said to you before, I strongly believe that. If you don't believe in yourself, absolutely nobody else will. And if you're not up for failure, you're never going to succeed. You are going to fail at some things, but that will make you better.
Yes, failure is feedback. We're just
Absolutely.
learning how to do it better the next time.
Absolutely. And what if you don't fail? What if you succeed? How amazing is that going to feel?
Right. It might feel so good that we make up reasons to feel bad about it.
Yeah, because then you're worried that people are going to say, oh, it's all so easy for her. Okay, this is this whole cycle over again.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. These limiting beliefs that they make so much sense when they're just on that internal soundtrack. They make perfect sense. And then you utter them out loud and you think, oh, wait a minute, that actually has no leg. So I think for me, when I've discovered something like that, and I think, you and I are similar, like when we find something that gives us the opportunity to be a better version of ourselves, we like, ooh, let's get in there. That's juicy. Let's shine a light on that shadow and, do the work to move past it. But those limiting beliefs can really keep us in this place that feels safe, but it's not serving us and it's not serving the people that we have the opportunity to impact. Like you are having such a beautiful impact and effect on the people that are interacting with your Instagram, the people that are reading your blog. I'm one of those people, the people that get to meet you, the people that stay in your guest house, the people that you help find a property so that they can be your neighbor and live in France. It's just all so beautiful and really life giving to the receiver. And the fact that you've opened yourself up to receive that goodness back to you, that's a beautiful circle as well.
Yeah, very interesting way of putting it. I just think conversations like this are so fascinating. And I always think they're fascinating to listen when other people talk like this because it's all a journey of self discovery and realize that, yes, we can actually do so much more than we realize, so long as we believe in ourselves.
Right. And what's most personal is most universal. We all have the same thoughts. I think that yesterday I did a live. I was decorating my wreath for the barn and I was walking around and I saw some bittersweet. So I clipped it and it's giant. So I'm dragging it through the field past my antique barn. And I'm looking at myself going, who are you? And what dreamy life do you live? And like, I'm excited to see myself living this life. And if I allow it, the next thought that wants to come in there was, who do you think you are? It doesn't get to be this good. You don't get to enjoy chores. You have way too many chores to enjoy them. That's ridiculous. Nobody, I'm like, who? That
Yeah.
voice, I don't even, if it's unchecked, oh, she doesn't stop. And she is not very nice. And she will go on and on and on and list all the reasons why I don't deserve what I have, why I'm silly to enjoy the amount of work that is required with this property. And I have to sometimes just stop and say out loud, I cancel that thought. And this is what I was going to say to you earlier. I'm so glad it came back. Create a new narrative. So I need to create a new thought so that when I hear myself say, who do you think you are? Or why are you going live? You don't even know if this wreath thing is going to work, or this drink is going to taste good, or whatever. I have to create a new narrative. And my narrative is I thrive in community and I desire to be available for community. And going live is a way that I've identified creates community, and I'm available for it. And I thrive in that scenario. So I've created a new narrative that helps me love what could limit me, which could stop me. And that's what I would love to encourage you to do now that you have this discovery that you're afraid of something that's not happening, is that, to create a new narrative. I am the woman who brings joy to other people's days.
I remember asking you when we were walking, I think through the market in the Ile-de-Ré in La Flotte, and I remember saying to you, because you were about to do a live, or you said, I'm going to go live. And I remember saying, does it make you nervous? How do you feel? And you said, only the first one. Once I got past the first one, that was it. But for me, it would still be, oh gosh, who's going to want to listen to this? I haven't got past that complete, oh, I'm going to go live, because then I would think, oh gosh. And it's that fear of judgment again. Somebody's going to say, who does she think she is doing a live? Why would anybody want to listen to that?
That person doesn't click on the button because she doesn't want to listen.
Absolutely. If
And
you don't
that's
want to listen, you
okay.
don't want to listen. No, you're so right. So you see, in so many ways, I've said yes to myself. Anything, as I say, around me or my family.
Yeah.
Yep, I can do that. If somebody says go and do something, I can do it. I am invincible. I can do anything. I couldn't care less about age or the fact that I'm a woman or anything. But put me out there in front of everybody, and it's like, oops, the alarm bells go off.
And I think too, something that you just said, put me out there in front of everybody. It's actually not everybody. The people that push the button want to be there. It's the same as I was telling you about doing events at the house. I only want people here that want to be here, because there's a different energy when you're around people that are super excited to be where they are. I want the people that painted the house, they were singing. They were scraping decades of old paint off my house and they were singing. The fabulous women that clean my house, they sing. When I am doing my chores, I sing, I meditate. Like, if you don't want to be here, please keep driving. And it's the same for the people that are on your lives, that read your blog, that follow your Instagram, that say yes to themselves and come visit you in person. They want to be there, and you are showing up for the people that are showing up for you. And that's a gift.
See, this is why I love talking to you. You need to come and live in France.
Okay.
We need to be neighbors for sure.
Yes, we do. Done. And so it is. Oh, you're so kind. I mean, you're such a phenomenal human, and we are always the last girl to that party, right?
Yep, always.
When, someone says that, and immediately the list of all the things that are not phenomenal run through my head, and, to discount the other person's assessment, but that's not what we're here for today. What I love is that you are such a strong, determined, confident woman, not defiant. I don't find you defiant at all. You are very aligned with what's important to you. And it makes sense now what you've shared about how you feel about anything that has to do with your family. I mean, having 5 children, that's quite an undertaking as well. But even opening yourself up and being available to the adventure of your youngest and how you are allowing her to follow her dreams. And even though that disrupts the pattern of your day to day, you're really embracing that. And if that's a topic you're open to chatting about, I'd be really fascinated with how that's working for you and how that's just opened up new areas to visit and new experiences to share and all of that goodness.
Sure, I think so. If anybody doesn't know, our youngest daughter, she is just turned 16 last month, and she's a pretty good tennis player. And she didn't start playing until late, till she was 9, and she's sort of gone on from strength to strength, and now she plays an awful lot internationally. And yes, it is extremely time consuming. We won't get into the expense of it because that is just a constant worry. But on a personal level, the time it takes for me is an awful lot of driving and a lot of support. And it's been a big family adjustment because all of her siblings have had to, more so Hetty, who's at home all the time with her, but everybody has had to adjust that I'm away quite a lot with her. And it seemed, I think, to start with as if it was almost favoritism, but they knew it wasn't. And now actually they all look at it and say, oh gosh, I wouldn't want to have to do what she does. You know, it might look on the outside, oh, she has this wonderful lifestyle of traveling. You know, she's been this year to Belgium and Africa and Switzerland and Spain and you name it, to Ireland. She's been there. But actually, it's a really hard lifestyle. It's very lonely. She doesn't have school friends. She has missed out on an awful lot of that wonderful teenage growing up. And in many ways, I have to be there to be her best friend as well as a mum. So you've got to balance those two things. Because, you know, last night we took the dogs for a walk together. I did the paddle boarding with Hetty, and then Gigi and I took the dogs for a walk together. And actually, she was talking about earrings and fashion. And, you know, it was just really, I became a teenager for an hour while we chatted so that, you know, she can have those conversations too. So it sounds wonderful, but it's very difficult. But she has this amazing belief in herself that I have never, ever known in somebody so young. And she also has this incredible self motivation and dedication. I mean, she is homeschooled through the French system in French. She trains for 6 hours between fitness and tennis a day. She still has to do all her schoolwork. And she absolutely does it. And if she wants to stop, she stops. You know, we're not pushing her; she's pushing herself.
Mm-hmm.
But and I would support her, and our children would support her. Roddy supports her. We're a hugely tight, close knit family, and we are all behind her. Not the others wouldn't even want to do it. They're very happy with their lives too, but they will absolutely support her to the ends of the earth and back.
It's so beautiful. And I think it's fascinating that you find her determination hard to recognize when I would see it if I was looking at you two sitting next to each other. I also love the opportunities that you've taken in wherever her tournaments are, wherever she needs to play, that you create an experience around that. And the ways that you've shared when you are going to a new village, that you don't just go to tennis and stay at the hotel and, you know, pretend that you're not in some magical fabulous place, but you actually investigate and experience where you are every day. And that might be one of the best things we can do for our kids.
You know, she has her education. She's a good student. It's probably not nearly as good as an education that she doesn't have a teacher to ask as such, even though it's the French online system. It's very hard, and some things we can help her with. The physics, there's no way I can help her with the physics. But what she has is she has so much common sense and so much general knowledge. As you say, whenever we go somewhere, if it's in France, if it's abroad, I will try and teach her about and I don't know it myself, so I'm learning half the time as well. You know, I will look up and try and learn about the history of the place, learn about where we're going. learn about how this differs to this. And I don't go to all the tournaments. I do half, her coach does half. We split it between us because that way, he can still be head coach at the club and I still get some time at home. It's a whole learning experience. There's so much to be learned every single place you go to. The architecture, and I'm sure sometimes she gets really bored of me going, oh, I've just got to take a photo of this. And look at this building. It's just amazing. And listen to this history. But I know somewhere it's sinking in. And, she will look at the architecture and look at the different ways. And when we were in Spain this summer, it was very different to France, very similar, but very different. So she is having the most phenomenal experience. And for me, this is also part of her education.
Oh, 100%. I would like to enroll Amelia in tennis just so that I can educate her in the way that you're getting to educate Gigi, because this is very much in alignment with the kind of experience that I would desire for Amelia.
Yes, I think what it teaches them is an enormous confidence in themselves. So as I said, she has this belief. She has a phenomenal self-belief and mentally is enormously strong. She also just can talk to anybody. She will talk
Yes.
to a room full of adults. She's actually quite an introvert. And yet she appears to be an extrovert, but she's not. She's very self-contained. But if somebody says, oh, here, just talk to somebody, she'll just go up and talk to them.
She is not socially awkward. She's
Not
not,
at all.
I don't think she's missing out. I mean, you have 5 kids, so she's not missing out on social interaction, and she's on a team. There are lots of arguments, I'm sure, from the people that would criticize that don't even listen to this podcast because we're only
Yeah,
showing up
exactly.
for the people that show up for us. But, I know that there are some arguments or schools of thought that would say, oh no, the kids need the social interaction of middle school, when the rest of us have PTSD from middle school and have
Exactly. I
purposefully
think
blocked out that entire experience. So I actually don't think you need to have these rites of passage that someone I don't even know has decided. We know how to parent our children. We are smart. We are confident. We are aligned. We are connected to a source higher than our own when we feel like we need bigger wisdom. And we know what's best for our kids, and we get to make decisions that are best for our family. And it doesn't really matter what other people think.
it does help enormously that she's very close to, she's the youngest, but her next sibling is only a year and a half older. She's 17, Gigi's 16. And that obviously helps enormously. And they have a best friend at school who, when they were in primary school in France, the 3 of them were a big unit together. And Hetty has stayed friends with that person. So he is often at our house. So Gigi does have that interaction still with them. And obviously, she has interaction with other girls when she's at tournaments and things. And she has a hitting partner who's a year older than her, a guy who she hits with all the time. So she does have that interaction too. I think that is really important. It's probably easier than if she was a single child and didn't have anybody at home.
Sure.
They can, she can go off listening to music with Hetty and they can go off doing their things. And they are very close. So that enormously helps. But she went to school until middle school. She did half a year of middle school, and since then she's always been homeschooled. When I say homeschooled, I say it's all computer, all through the French system. So she is completely bilingual all the same. She also does Spanish. She wants to learn Japanese. She's very into her languages. And I think, she might not have the best education in the world, but she's learned an awful lot more than an awful lot of people who have a brilliant education have.
Right. Right. I don't think that, missing a school dance is really going to set her back at all.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
She's
Exactly.
good.
Exactly. She dances on the tennis court every day instead.
Right. Right. She's good. Well, I want to also chat about, thank you for sharing all that stuff about Gigi. I'm just been very fascinated about it as well. But I love the other things that take your time, including helping people locate properties so that they can have a dreamy French life as well. Can you say a bit about that and how that has expanded over the years, and just what you're finding in that pursuit.
Absolutely. I mean, that started with a couple of friends. One, our very good mutual friend, Jeff, who he stayed with us in our guest cottage and he was looking for a house. And we said, well, he flew back to America and I saw something privately. And just as he was going through security at Charles de Gaulle, I sent him a text saying, we found you a fabulous house. But it was obviously too late for him to just turn around. So he came back about 5 days later and that's the house he bought. But we did that as a friend for a friend. We just said, sure, we'll look out for you. And likewise, we did the same for another couple who had stayed in our guest cottage for about 3 years on the trot, and they decided they wanted to move to France. And it was them who actually said, you know what, you should do this for other people. You should make a living out of this, because working in France as a foreigner is quite hard to make a living here. I think it's one of the hardest things one of the biggest challenges people face. I mean, running the guest cottage is great, but it doesn't provide enough income for our family, that alone. And so we were sort of brainstorming with these friends and saying, because they had just moved here, they needed to earn an income too. And they said, well, this is what you should do. And we sort of looked into it and we thought, you know what? We love properties. We love finding things. We have a genuine love of that, which I think makes things so much better. If you're passionate about something, you're much better at it. And I thought it's something I can do working around the tennis and being away so much, because I can search for properties. I can talk to people if I'm in Africa, if I'm Spain, wherever I am. I'm at tennis all day looking like I'm doing nothing. And then I'm working till 1 o'clock in the morning because I get home. And that's when my working day starts at
Sure.
7 o'clock at night. Thank goodness I have a husband who's a brilliant chef. He cooks and I work. It's a great scenario. So we started this, and now we've helped quite a lot of people find fabulous houses. And the more houses we find and the more people that relocate here who become friends, it's just wonderful seeing them find their dream, because it is really hard negotiating the French system. The agent's details tend to be, on the whole, pretty rubbish. They don't tell you the negative things. They don't tell you that actually you wouldn't want to live in this house for anything. They just show you a couple of pictures, which aren't styled at all either. I mean,
Right?
it's very basic. And, people come in from a foreign country. And we did this when we came back from America, from 4 years in America. Roddy came on his own with a week to find a house. This was 9 years ago. And we'd been living in France before, as I said, so we were not new to the country in any way. But we were new to this area, and we've got lots of houses all on a list that he was going to view. We'd made it all, from our computers in the States. And he got here and he got to the second to last day, and every single one was a waste of time. And he was literally pulling his hair out saying, oh my God, I'm going to come home with no property. And this is why I came here, and there's nothing. And actually he got lucky. It's a long story, but he got lucky, and we did find our house, and it was great. But so many people waste so much money on journeys. They come to France if they're from whatever country, or even people, we have clients actually at the moment who are in Paris, they're French, and they just don't want to come back and forth from Paris all the time. They're fed up of wasting time on endless trips, and then they come for a weekend and then go back and think, oh God, that was a wasted weekend. We could have had fun instead. And so what we do is we talk to people an awful lot. It's very personal. You talk to them on video calls so that you can chat, you get to know them. I will send them properties to start with that probably aren't suitable, but I just want to get some feedback so that we can understand, I'm going to send you 6 properties. Just tell me what you think, just so that you can get a feel, so they can say, look, I hate the floors, I hate the ceiling, I love that, but I don't like that. Just so that you can start to get to know what people like. And then the idea is, when they are ready to move, be it a permanent home or a second home, whatever, when they're ready to actually start making a commitment, because it's a waste of time, people coming here, if they're not actually planning to then buy for a couple of years, sure, start working with us and start the process so that you can feel what you want. But when you're ready to come here and say, right, actually, we're now ready to buy our property, then we send them 5, 6 properties that we have personally visited, that they have then said, yeah, we really like that. And we've sent them videos and photos and said, look, this is good, this is bad. And they have a short list that they feel like they've walked around themselves because they've seen the videos we've discussed. So that when they come here, it is itinerized. You've got 6 properties that they really like to look around. And 100% of the time, people then say, right, they choose one and buy them because they've already seen them. All the hard work's gone.
Right. Oh my gosh, I love it. And I love so much of what you said about that. When you are passionate about what you're doing, it's not work. It just comes easily. And the fact that you can monetize something so absolutely dreamy is beautiful.
Yes. And as I say, when you are passionate about something, I think you are genuinely much better at it because you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. I would do it if I could without being paid for it all, like we did for our friends in the first place, how it got started, because it's something I actually and Roddy too just loves doing. And so I think you can look at a house, and we are both very good, having renovated several houses of our own in France and made great many very costly mistakes as well. So we've seen it from both angles. I mean, huge mistakes. But we're very good at saying, look, you could do this. You could do that. Look past what you see right now. This is what is possible. And these are the negatives. You know, you cannot change the location. It is the most important thing.
Right.
And I think some people get totally sucked in, oh, this is a dream village in the middle of nowhere and it looks fabulous. And we say to them, but hang on a minute, what happens in the winter? You might not find it quite so dreamy when the sunflowers aren't out and you've got no neighbours in the winter. You can't just go and picnic in the next door field. And so it is a very personal thing. You ask people to explore far more about themselves than they initially wanted to explore even. And people, they do end up changing their minds an awful lot. What they thought they wanted was actually not what they wanted at all. It's a very emotional journey. They've got to put their trust in us and feel that they really trust what we say.
Right. And the fact that you're just holding space for them for this process, this is not a typical way that anyone purchase a property. Like, this is a beautiful concierge service that you provide that allow people to not only look outside of themselves in pursuit of a property, but to look inside of themselves as well, so that when they come home, quote unquote, they are actually coming home to themselves. That is gold.
Absolutely. And this is why we've always said we cannot take on too many people at a time. We've said no to somebody recently because we felt that this was at the beginning of the summer. Actually, somebody else bought a house and now we kind of have space again. But because you can't be looking for too many people at the same time. And I find that it has got to be personal, because I think if you take away that, then you just become a machine, and then you take away the whole one-on-one scenario. And you have to be totally open. Video calls have to be in the middle of family meals, because for us, that is when an American can talk to us.
Right.
So, you know, if you're going to talk to somebody at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, that's how it has to be. And because we love doing it, it's really not a problem. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to these people and to get to know them and to get to know what they want too. That is truly fascinating.
I love everything about this. It's so good.
And of course, we get to welcome people to France. So, you know, we love the country. There's so many amazing things about it. So everybody wants to come here. We all shared, we have that one common link immediately. They want to come here.
Right. Right. And we're available. We show up for the people that are showing up for us. So good.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. I love that this is your job and this is your life. And as we were chatting when we were sitting in your kitchen a couple of weeks ago, that was so fun. And you were asking me, like, do people really want to know the day to day? Do people really want to see that, oh, look, I'm doing the dishes, I'm potting some plants, I'm, going to a brocante, walking the dogs. And I think that they do. I do. I love to watch that you and I may be spending our days in similar ways, but your view is way better. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, that you're so generous to share just the ease and the simple elements of your day to day, but it transports us, and we're grateful for that. And then we can, bring a little bit of it into our own space, because your eye is so beautiful, and you have the superpower of looking at a house that needs renovation or at a room that needs an update, and you can see its potential. You can see what it could look like if we took this wall down, or we moved this table to the middle of the room instead of the corner, or anything like that. That is an absolute superpower. And you just sharing a picture of your kitchen inspires so many people just to make a simple change or pack up and move to France.
Absolutely. It's honestly, moving countries is really quite easy. It was harder moving the dog here than it was 5 children.
Well,
So,
there you go.
in fact, I think there was probably way more paperwork as well.
Right? I bet. Oh my goodness. Oh, I have loved this conversation, Susan. Thank you so, so much. Please tell people how they can find you. We're going to link it all in the show notes, but just in case someone needs to hear it right now, please tell everyone where they can find you.
So there are really two main ways: either my website, which is ourfrenchlifestyle.com, or on my Instagram, which is at ourfrenchoasis. Those are the two main ways, and then my email links are on both of those.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see you in person very, very soon. But until then, have a beautiful day.
And you too. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I have learned an awful lot too. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. I look forward to the next time. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.